Listen. I've always been a sucker for weird, obscure, classic DOS and other PC games. Amiga, those cursed, low-budget relics you'd find buried in the deep and dark corners of the deep and dark web these days. You're not even finding them on mainstream abandonware sites now. I had a change of heart when I stumbled across georgewbush.exe on a sketchy forum promising the ultimate early 2000s kid fever dream. Hmm. Well, I was thinking of going to Silk Road instead, but I couldn't resist. The download was simply a measly 69 megabytes, but the game's icon was disturbing. Former Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein's face was slathered in salsa and mole sauce, with a fart Rand's ink scrawled and what looked like honey mustard in the background. Was this possibly a nod to mustard gas? That's not appropriate. I couldn't tell if whoever created this game was edgy or just deranged. When I hovered my cursor over the icon, Saddam Hussein winked at me. Desktop icons don't wink. I laughed it off as some sort of quirky animation, but I have to tell you, it left me feeling disturbed, disgruntled, disheveled. It's kind of like when an election is too close to call and you're never sure who was really meant to win the thing. But what I could tell you is if I wanted to be a winner, I wouldn't have played this. Before I could launch the game itself, a pop-up ad blasted out onto my screen, demanding that I send cryptocurrency to an Iranian nuclear facility to combat Stuxnet. I rolled my eyes, closed it, and double-clicked the game icon. I had no time for scammers and phishing attacks. I'm too good for that. I'm a proud true blue American. Yes, the screen blazed up to life, and georgewbush.exe entered my retinas and cranium. In hindsight, that was a regrettable decision. The game opened with George W. Bush, my character, strutting down a dusty New Mexico street, aiming for a Taco Bell glowing like a holy grail at the end of the level. The graphics were a bizarre mix of 8-bit sprites and hyper-realistic Mode 7 effects like Star Fox, with sombreros bouncing up and down in the background to the tune of distorted mariachi music. It was muffled low and droning and excessive maraca rattles. This was strange. Exploding donkey piñatas on the background were raining down delicious Mexican honey candies. George's sprite was oddly detailed. His cowboy boots were scuffed, and his smirk was uncanny. I knew that something was a little bit off, as if there was a secret George W. Bush was hiding from me. But what could that secret be? The gameplay was simple, but it was also unhinged. I had to guide George W. Bush past open manholes. If I fell in, he'd lose a life and he'd yell out, "Oh, great! It's a man great!" What the hell did that even mean in a twangy, glitched out voice? I snagged pesos for points. 100 of them triggered a smirking Dick Cheney head popping up, grimacing like a possessed jack-in-the-box, bellowing out, "Shoot your friends, George. I did it." What? Well, there were no guns in this game. Yet. I collected Tex-Mex power-ups, tacos, beans, enchiladas, chimichangas. Each one turned George into a massive gorilla wielding 2 American flags, rampaging through tanks in his path. The transformation animation was simply grotesque, as if Tim Burton had animated it. His body was contorted, his fur sprouted and was matted down, his eyes were glowing red to match the white scleros. Well, this gave me the blues. Then came the enemies. Middle Eastern terrorists in turbans spawning from wreck tanks. I jumped on them and then explode into red, white, and blue smog like a smog machine had gone off, with "mission accomplished" flashing across the screen in Comic Sans font. It was absurd. It was offensive. And yet I couldn't stop playing. At the end of the level, George reached the Taco Bell, which looked like a Super Mario Brothers castle. He threw up what might have been a peace sign or more likely a V for victory, yelling out, "I'm loving it." Blatant McDonald's ripoff. But then again, he was considered to be the mascot for McDonald's, replacing Ronald McDonald. Look it up. He was offered it before he became president. And fireworks in patriotic colors lit up the sky. Outside the Taco Bell, George jumped on a voting machine, smashing it to bits while yelling, "Dangling Chad, you'll always be my friend." Why did he jump on the voting machine? Things got weirder from there. George W. Bush's dirty Southern-style jeans vanished in thin air, leaving his nutsack dangling in pixelated glory like it was Custer's revenge. He giggled, smacking himself in the balls repeatedly until red polka dot and heart-covered boxer shorts materialized. "Thank you, Lord," he proclaimed, saluting the sky. I should have uninstalled the game then and there. I should have. But sometimes you make a mistake. Sometimes someone attacks you and you turn around and attack Afghanistan. The next level plunged George W. Bush into the ocean, diving through waves while tossing taco shells, ground beef chunks, and refried beans at fish, sharks, and octopi. His voice was now bubbly and garbled from being underwater, and he declared, "I know that the human being and fish can coexist peacefully." From above, Saddam Hussein's sprite dumped oil into the water. Oil and water don't mix. If George touched it, he shrank into Little Bush, a tiny, vulnerable, animated version of himself that looked like something from a Comedy Central cartoon that lasted all of 1 year before being canceled, similar to Super Mario losing a power-up or getting hit. At the level's end, George W. Bush surfaced from the waters and saved a princess who cooed out, "Thank you, W, but Laura is in another castle." She then morphed into an angry turtle, chocolate smeared on its lips. George W. Bush. George W. Bush responded by unzipping his pants and pissing on it like a lemonade fountain. The screen glitched and I questioned my life choices. The final level, thankfully, dropped George W. Bush into a dark underground bunker. He crawled through tunnels, dodged landmines, and bizarre moles that clapped and squeaked with nerdy glasses on. "Please clap!" in a distorted retro PC speaker tone. Those moles reminded me of someone, but I don't remember who. Randomly, jump scares of George Bush Sr.'s face flashed on screen. His eyes were replaced with dollar signs. The words, "Read my lips," scrawled next to a hyper-realistic donkey's anus. I nearly threw my mouse. I nearly threw up on a Japanese prime minister if he'd been sitting next to me, but he wasn't. Further in, Bush Sr. appeared as a full 8-bit sprite, pleading, "Now, I don't want you to do this, son, but after all, you are the president." W ignored him. He ignored him. At the level's end, I found Saddam Hussein, haggard in a stained wife beater, munching a dollar store chocolate bar. Wait a minute, that was a teddy bear. There's nothing more detestful than someone eating a teddy bear. George Bush pounced and Saddam's head exploded in a gory pixel display. Chocolate coins erupted from his neck like a volcano. Dick Cheney sprinted on screen, scooped them up into his stubby hands, and cackled. "I'm the Emperor of Earth, George." George smirked back. "You mean Vice Emperor?" Cheney replied, "Same thing, but the people won't know." The credits rolled over an image of George and Laura Bush flying through outer space in a jet somehow capable of interstellar travel. Laura Bush smiled serenely, while a corpse slumped in the back seat, ignored by both. I was ready to close the game when a knock came at my actual door. My heart stopped, skipped a beat. I opened it up frantically, and there was a giant gorilla in a Donkey Kong-esque tie, looking like 2004 United States Democratic presidential candidate John Forbes Kerry. He asked for spare change in a gravelly voice. I need money to do things. I stammered, no. To which he raised a furry middle finger up into the air and growled back, I'll be back. Minutes later, there was a loud crash and banging sound. John Kerry had burst through my doorway on a pink bike with pom-pom handlebars, clutching a giant ruler like a madman. I stole this from a nun when I was an altar boy. He smashed my computer, obliterating georgewbush.exe forever, then pedaled off into the sunset with his pretty pink pom-pom bike, laughing a monotonous Frankenstein-esque laugh and farting loudly and obnoxiously. My room smelled faintly of tacos, regret, and Democratic candidate guerrilla flatulence. Oh, I never did find that game again. I don't want that game again. The forum where I downloaded it vanished. But sometimes, if I close my eyes and open up my ears, I do hear what sounds like George W. Bush's cackle mixed in with John Kerry going, oh, over the faint mutter of maracas clattering and the Taco Bell dog saying, Yo quiero Taco Bell. However, I won't play the game again, even if they promise me that that is the only way for my mission to be accomplished.